Hey guys, we're just here doing a little bit of a deep dive on this Kraken that I had all painted up. It's a pretty cool model. Yeah, this is the Kraken created by Ilhadiel Miniatures. And you can look them up on my mini factory. Or you look up their Patreon, you can get access to all their files. Because when you sign up to his Patreon, you get access to the entire library. You don't have to buy all the files individually. You get access to the whole thing. It's awesome. It's totally worth it. And this guy is currently on a 60 by 100 millimeter base to be a proxy for the Kraken model that you can play as for Old World. I don't think it's called Kraken. And there's also because this was made for Kings of War, which is based off old fantasy. But Kings of War has a Dark Elf army, and they have a Kraken creature, which I think would be on a 75 millimeter base, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is a pretty cool. It turned out really good. Probably could have done a little bit more to get rid of that little blob and maybe use a little bit of the gel super glue to kind of smooth out that joint right there. But I mean, otherwise, I thought it turned out pretty cool. The eyes turned out pretty cool too. Now it's done with just, putting white in the eyes, putting a Zealot Yellow contrast paint on there, and then putting a little black line on there. Really, you could use any black, but I like using Black Templar or Black Legion contrast paints. Goes on nice and thin. Got the little bone on there. Skeleton bone, my army painter, and then Reikland Fleshshade over it. I use the Alien Familiar, I think it's called, for the pink contrast. And then I dry brush another kind of brighter pink paint on there. And then at the very end, I take that Reikland Fleshshade from Citadel, and I put it all over all the pink and the bone and stuff. And then got this cool teal color, which I believe was the Croxigor Scales. Also by Citadel, another contrast paint. It's all pretty easy. It's mostly slap chop, which is when you just take a black model and then you would dry brush, usually white, and then you put the contrast on top. But in this case, I actually dry brushed Mechanicus Grey from Citadel, and then I went over it with a white. You can use any white. You can use Corax white from Citadel. There's a pure white from Pro Acrylic. There's all sorts of different off-whites and stuff you can use from Army Painter. Any white's fine. You just put a little bit on a brush. You wipe most of it off until paint barely comes off, and then you just go over all the edges and stuff. And then after that, you just throw the contrast on there. Just blob it on there. Maybe get the little spots to keep it from pooling too much, like it did a little bit to me right here. Maybe I'll end up going back and just touching up with a brighter teal color. And this is just using a mud texture. And then simply just taking any tan, or more of a sand color maybe, and then dry brushing over it. And then using simply just kind of like a darker blue. For the rest of this is supposed to be like water. And then just take a brighter blue and kind of dry brush it a little bit over. You can see on some of the edges that are kind of highlighted a little bit. I have this other technical paint from Vallejo that's supposed to make things look wet. You put it on, it's like a white coating, but after 24 hours it cures and it turns into like a clear wet texture. So I may actually go over all of this water right here so it looks all wet, and then maybe just kind of slather it all over the octopus or Kraken or whatever, I think it turned out pretty cool. There's a Hydra by Ilhadiel Miniatures I've been wanting to paint up as well, so that's probably going to be next on the list for monsters. Look how cool he turned out. It's pretty cool. Most of the piece comes whole, except for the half of each tentacle is a separate piece. So, like, yeah, all these pieces are all just separate tentacles, and then the rest of it comes whole. Super easy assembly, easiest thing ever, easiest model to print it out perfectly, assemble real nicely, throw it on a base. Can't ask for anything simpler. And I really like Ilhadiel Miniatures' simple designs. They're not too busy with detail. They have just enough detail and texture and stuff. Nice and simple. Yeah, I just want to put like a dead body or something right here and put like blood smear all over. I may do more with it later. But I'm fine with how this came out. Sure, there's probably some D&D games you can use this thing for too. And of course, this being a 3D printed model, you can scale it up and down. You can make it smaller, have tiny little octopuses. Or if this guy isn't big enough, you can just scale him up, make him even bigger, have a big giant monster, which would be pretty cool actually. Yeah, I definitely recommend, if you're interested in printing your own, look up Ilhadiel Miniatures, sign up for their Patreon. You get access to the whole library. Have a good, like, 40 Dark Elf units alone, but a whole bunch of different armies. You get access to the whole thing. It's great. Well worth it. God, this thing is so cool. Yeah? Well, thanks for watching.